this story takes us out of Hill House and into school, because I was in middle school when all of this started happening. And if you remember a few stories back, whenever I had my seizure in the shower, that was the very first night that I saw the man in the black suit. And he shows up in Reflections. And I was in school. I had no friends in that class, and I was just doodling away on my sketchbook, not paying attention to anything that was actually happening in class. I don't even remember what class I was in. I was just being forced to be in school, so that's where I was. And this classroom had windows that looked out into the hallway in one side of the classroom. So the entire side of it you could see through out into the hallway. And I looked up, and there, standing right behind me, was a tall, thin man. Not terribly tall, I'd say about 6 foot high. Very pale skin. All black suit, black shirt, black tie, slicked black hair, and just deep, deep black eyes just standing right behind me. So, of course, I screamed and jumped up and looked behind me and, I didn't make any friends in that class. Sure enough, from the basement.
I just woke up, so don't mind the bad hair. So they were basically like war drums, really. Because like Anna said, whenever they started afterwards, a bunch of other strange and unpleasant things would happen, both including, like creatures that weren't usually there starting to wander about, and other abnormal activity that wasn't as regular, like a regular basis. And also a lot of the times, everyone in the house would get super cranky and start fighting and shit after the drums. So it was kind of a warning system, really. But, it was still terrifying because your basement shouldn't be drumming like that. Sometimes when I'd be down in the basement on the computer or something like that, you'd start hearing what you think at first is, like the washing machine filled with stuff banging on the walls. And then it'd start getting louder, and you'd be able to hear the actual rhythm of the drums. And that's usually when I would go upstairs for a little short dinner time and wait for it to go away. Because I usually wasn't downstairs save for when it was daytime and nighttime. Evening time, I don't remember being down there ever at evening time.
I think you're the first person on here to say that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Alright, I always thought this story wasn't paranormal, but I just did about 2 days worth of research trying to find the species of spider that lived in the basement of Hill House, and I've been looking so hard. And this species of spider does not seem to exist. So if there's any entomologists out there that have any idea of what I'm describing, please give me a shout out. Now, Hill House in the basement had a fairly regular amount of wolf spiders. And in case you didn't know, wolf spiders look like this. They are huge. But along with the wolf spiders, there was also something that I called ghost spiders. Now, these spiders, turns out there is a genus of spider called ghost spider, but I've looked through every known kind of ghost spider, and I can't find any this size or description. But I did find some teeny tiny ones that are supposed to live in gardens that look exactly like them, only they're like this big. And these ghost spiders were huge. Like, they could wrap their little legs around my hands. But they looked like this. Now imagine this isn't a teeny tiny spider, but a giant spider. A big boy. And I used to sit down in the basement all the time on the computer. And because of these ghost spiders being down there so often, you see that the wolf spiders didn't really bother you unless you sat still for way too long, and then they'd kind of forget that you were there. But the ghost spiders, they loved to run up your legs and across your feet and jump on you if you were on the ground. And I kid you not, these guys were huge. You could hear them slap on the ground when they jumped. And there were so many of them. So I would sit down there with my legs crossed and not put my feet on the ground. And if you notice, I still sit with my legs crossed all the time. It's really hard for me to sit without my legs crossed, because I train to myself, when I am sitting, you keep your legs crossed or else it is dangerous. And I don't know what's going on with those spiders. I always thought that they were regular, but now I can't frickin' find them. I don't know what they were. So, bug people, if you know of any completely clear, gigantic, tarantula-looking spiders without much fur, let me know. Something scary just happened when I tried to leave. I was trying to film a video about the day of bugs when Asian fighting beetles completely swarmed the entire house, and I woke up covered in them. I'll tell you that story soon once I can get it filmed, but I finally gave up because I just kept getting error after error. And I went out, and me and my husband had to run to the store, and I was telling him about my issues, and I looked over, and there was an Asian fighting beetle crawling on his shoulder, and I haven't seen one of those at this house ever. So, you know, I almost shat my pants, and I took the little Asian fighting beetle out, and it flew away, but didn't like it. Didn't like that at all. So I've told you about my friend who lived up the road from me, and she would come over and spend the night a few times here and there, every few months or so. I typically went over to stay at her house, but I very vividly remember one of the first few times she stayed over, because we were staying up late at night, and I had forced her to watch The Grudge. It had just come out, and she was not exposed to horror films like I had been, so she cried and was pretty traumatized. So once the movie was over, we needed to go to the kitchen to get her some food and some water and, you know, some lights and regular house stuff so that she would feel safe. So we went to the kitchen, and I remember my parents were already in bed, and I was at the sink preparing her a drink, and she grabbed my arm, and I looked at her, and she was staring down the basement stairs, and I still wasn't truly used to the stair creeper, so it hadn't really crossed my mind that it might be there. So yeah, it was there, crouched down at the bottom, staring up at us, and she had long fingernails, and her fingernails dug into my arm, and I leaned over and said, "We need to go back to the bedroom now as quickly as possible." And as soon as I said that, it started crawling, and this thing crawled very quickly, and like unnaturally, with like its legs over its arms, and it almost moved like stop motion, but you could see that it was there. It was flesh and blood and bones. It wasn't see-through or anything like that. It cast a shadow. It made the stairs creak. You could feel its hands slapping on the ground, its feet as it ran after you. And my friend screamed and bolted back to my bedroom and shut my door on me, so I couldn't get into my own bedroom. And you could hear the stair creeper running after us. But luckily, my parents woke up and came out, turned on the hall lights, and the creeper went back downstairs. and my friend wouldn't stay the night that night. She had me walk her home and wouldn't let me stay with her, so that wasn't really nice. It wasn't nice at all. Oh, sweetheart, please don't be sorry for me. I have had to deal with this my entire life, and I feel like my family has had to deal with this long before I showed up. I am coming to terms with that through this storytelling process that I'm going through with all of you. But I never want you to feel sorry for me, because I love the paranormal. And if I hadn't have gotten it from my home, I, in my teenage years, probably would have done a lot more stupid things, like break into abandoned buildings and sneak out of my house at night to go into the cemeteries and, trespass places. So at least I got my jollies at home, and I learned a lot about the paranormal from that experience, and I am still learning from that experience, and the things that it led me towards. I wouldn't be this person if it wasn't for Hell House, and I'm trying to learn to respect it for that. So please don't be sorry. That's not the feeling I'm trying to give off. I would like you to be scared, just as scared as I was, because what's the point of a scary story if it's not a little bit frightening? If you don't think about it at night when you're laying in bed and you see a shadow and you think, oh, and Hell House pops in your mind, then I haven't told the story right. That's what this story is for, is to entertain. And I'm grateful for it, because it gave me such a good story to tell that, I'd love to in the future write a book about it, and I'd love to get together with a filmmaker and maybe make a small little horror movie based around Hell House. I think that would be just fantastic. So I view Hell House as a blessing, even as we get into the darker, more dramatic things that did happen to me. It was transformative in a way that I don't think many things on this earth could be. So I have to appreciate it for giving me that. It was terrifying, and I'm going to take a minute to talk a bit about how I dealt with that. You see, my mother was Christian, and my father was raised Lutheran, but didn't believe in anything he couldn't see. So I had my mom, who was Christian, but she also taught under the table witchcraft from my family's heritage from before we were forced to turn into Christians. So my mom was a very spiritual person, still is. And my dad, absolutely not. No spirituality to him whatsoever. He'll be the first to tell you this. So I'm not slighting my dad, that's just the truth. But they never really forced their religion or beliefs on me. They wanted me to learn everything I could and come to my own conclusions. So a lot of my childhood was spent learning about mythology and alternative religions to Christianity, because I really wasn't that interested in Christianity. But once the Drums in the Deep started in Hell House, my mom started reading passages from her Bible and trying to clear the house. I very specifically remember I liked the passage of, "Yea, though I walk through the valley and shadow of death, I shall fear no evil." I still like that passage, even though I am not Christian. But I began to notice that the prayers that my mom didn't do shit. They actually made the house angrier and made the fighting in the family worse, made the man in the bowler hat show up a lot more, made the man in the suit and reflections almost constant. It felt like it wasn't working. It was almost like throwing gasoline on a fire. So I had to find something that did work. So I started researching different kinds of witchcraft, and I started in Wiccan, but I quickly tossed that aside because they don't believe in demons or the devil, and I needed something that could fight demons and the devil because I was certain that's what I was dealing with at the time. I didn't have all the information yet. I have a lot more now, and I can say that I was right to toss Wiccan aside. I don't think it would have done very well against it. We're going to need a part 2 for this. And I was already rejecting Christianity because of the attack that I received from my friend's father, where he told me that I am a creature of the devil. And then I was attacked by an angel in the shower and given a seizure. I am quite averse to Christian ideals at the time. Not so much anymore, as you can see here by the angel that watches over me while I sleep. But at the time, I didn't want anything to do with God. I felt like God had sent his men to hurt me. So I started delving into more secular witchcraft that didn't really have any ties to actual gods or religion, because I felt like I didn't have anyone that I could call to, so I just tried to use the powers of nature and the earth around me and everything that I could see and touch and feel, and myself. And my great-grandma Maddie, who is one of my spirit guides. I used to see her when I was a child come in and visit me on my bed. I thought she was visiting my mom. She would come in all the time, and it turns out she died before I was even born. But that's who I would call to. And during this adventure into secular witchcraft, I met another ancestor guide who is named Catherine, who had beautiful, wild red hair, and she was one of my Irish descendants, or ancestors. I'm one of her descendants. And I've actually found her in genealogical searches and stuff. So she was real. And I started, dabbling in very, very basic baby bat witchcraft. And I put protections up in my bedroom so that the evil parts of the house couldn't get into it, which is why I trusted Radio Ghost, because he walked right through my barriers, so he must not have been evil. Now I have a more nuanced view of good and evil, so I think he was a demon, but I don't think he was evil by any means. Yeah, that was how I kind of handled the terrifying aspect of Hell House. Was I started dabbling in witchcraft, and it actually ended up being really bad because I started dabbling too hard too fast and ended up doing some bad things to a neighbor's house, which I'll tell you about soon. Sorry, neighbors, about that.